Welcome back. It's Glenn Lyvers with Prolific Press. We have a wonderful group of poets for the May 2022 reading event, and we're going to start with John McMullen. Hi, John.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Glenn. I'm very happy with the poem I'm going to read, which hasn't been published yet in the United States, but it's been translated into French, Romanian, Greek, and a language I never knew existed. Some of the Irish people made Doric, which is a language of northern Scotland, apparently. The communion of poets. Christians use the word communion in two ways as a synonym for the Holy Eucharist, and it's a group of like-minded holy people, the communion of saints. I use the latter in referring to a group as the communion of poets, a group that came together in response to a result of an initiative from Poetizer, the global poetry technology group. Poetizer solicited poetry from all over the world to be sent to Europe as the symbol of solidarity with the Ukrainian people. And poets responded. There are now thousands of poems that have been received and printed and posted on the John Lennon wall in Prague. Poems are in English, Ukrainian, Russian, German, and are not only about the war. Some are romantic, erotic, philosophical, about nature and other topics. It's just poets reaching out to each other and to the world. The communion of poets, the modern communion of saints. Glenn, can I share? I just want to show a picture.
Everybody has permissions to share.
Okay, so let's look at this. This is the John Lennon wall, and if you can see it, there are thousands of poems there. And I never even realized that there was a John Lennon wall in Prague. Now, in the actual poem that I've sent around to people, there are links to the to Poetizer, and there are links to the wall. So thank you very much for putting up with my thing. And back to you, Glenn. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, back to me. I'm sorry. I thought you were. You didn't have another one?
I have a long one, but I don't want to read two long ones. I could read it, but it's a very different kind of poem.
Okay. Well, if you weren't really ready, stick around to the end, and I'll come back to you. Well, no, you were going to be leaving, right?
Right.
So, go ahead and read your second poem. We don't have a huge group here. We only have 17 people, I think.
Okay.
But I do have everybody on the checklist that needs to go off the top here, and I'll try to get those quickly.
All right, let me pull it up here. This has to do with my previous week, and it's by Hudson Valley Epic. This was the week that was. Prologue. I live in New York State's beautiful Hudson Valley, and each week read my poetry both in person and on Zoom at events throughout the region. The last week, I was both a regular at one event named for the region and was a patient in another after reading at a government event. One, at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm as usual the first reader on Zoom at Spoken Word World, an international gathering of poets. I read a few poems, including one related to the recent racist-inspired massacre in Buffalo. The host, David Lee Sawar, makes a few comments, so we move to the next reader and to the next, concluding about 5 p.m. 2, at 7:30 p.m., I'm at my local town hall. As a poet laureate of the town of Yorktown, New York, I read a poem at every public meeting of the town board, generally every two weeks. At about 8:30 p.m., I read a poem standing at the podium, also about the Buffalo Massacre. And as I approach the end of my poem, I feel my legs begin to wobble. I sit down and they seem to be getting worse. So I left a little earlier, drove home, and after parking, walked like a man very drunk toward my house, only making it to a patio chair. My wife, Sainted Barbara, came out to rescue me and insisted we go to the hospital. 3. At about 10 p.m., we arrive at NYP Hudson Valley Medical Center, where we would spend the next 6 hours. 6 hours? Yes, 6 hours. 4, we went to ER and check in. Orderly put me in the bed and wheeled me down the hall. And the tiring, wonderful, almost overwhelming procedure begins. I get a chest x-ray, an EKG, more blood taken from me than I ever knew I had. The blood reports come up to my phone almost immediately. The CT scan of the head, and then I see a doctor. All is normal other than high blood sugar that caused the wobbliness. You can go home. So we do at 4:30 a.m. 5. Wednesday is mostly a wipeout from the lack of sleep. I get a call from the hospital. Our view of the CT scan shows a small nodule in the upper portion of your right lung. You might want to have it checked out. Damn. Well, coincidentally, I'm seeing my pulmonologist on Monday. 6, Thursday at 6 p.m., I begin hosting the Zoom weekly meeting of the Mahopac Writers Group. Then I read a few poems. 7, Friday, 7:30 p.m., I'm the first reader at the open mic of the Hudson Valley Writers Center. I read about the Buffalo Massacre poem. I'd run out of time as I start talking about translation. 7, I registered for 2 open mics next Saturday, both with publishers who have published my work, and obviously this is one. Sunday, I begin this poem. 9, I see the pulmonologist. The nodule was pre-existing and previously known, nothing of concern, but occasional shortness of breath warrants the test and the visit next month. 10, and we are back on Tuesday at this week's Spoken Word World, and I am ready. End note, there's no town board meeting tonight, so I'm off to a Zoom presentation at Curly's Poetry Workshop. A Hudson Valley poet must persevere, and thank you for putting up with my long health rant. Stop sharing. Glenn, back to you again.
You betcha. Thank you, John. That was nice. We're going to move on to this group. That's funny, Bob. Linda Imbler, followed by Eleanor Cantor, then Sydney McCoy and Sean O'Connor. Okay, so Linda.
Hi, I'm up. Okay, John, thank you for sharing about John's Wall. That was really cool. I did not know that existed. This first poem I'm reading in honor of Memorial Day weekend. It's called The Army in the Clouds. All over the world, people saw hovering in the sky clouds, their outlines shaped as soldiers. I saw them from my car, but wanted a better look. Pulling over, I got out and examined them. Some were black, some were white, and some had gone gray. All around the planet, there were vaporous outlines of all the soldiers from all the wars throughout all the years. While looking up at the sky, it started to rain, rain falling as tears. Wherever they were seen, their whispered chant was heard, and they spoke softly as one. Do everything in your power to bring peace to the world so that we may finally rest. Okay, that's the end of that one. Okay, In the Midnight of Time. This one hasn't been published yet. I'm still kind of messing with it. Freezing still, feel its depth, standing upon a shaky world that senses less each year. Grave diggers dig deeper, and owls hoot louder, and gazelles run faster. The moon shines dully, although with still noticeable grace. Death is used as a cover to excuse our lack of forgiveness, to make things less strange, and let flesh rest to mend its own seams. To let lips rest from telling stories or casting spells. To allow eyes to focus everywhere. To seek ancient lands where freezing steel is unknown and a steadier world prevails. Thank you. Thanks.
Very, very nice. Okay. That soldier poem, something very touching about that. Um, just good imagery. Eleanor.
Thank you.
Hi. I also have a poem about the military. It's not political, it's not Democratic Republican thing, but it's about conscription. I hope it's all right.
Sure.
Sharon. My sister's middle name is Queen. She never uses it. She lives it. Her golden touch takes everything and leaves her hungry. What she says goes, except in the army, where girls bow before men in ill-fitting skirts given on purpose, she says, to break you. The drafting officer put middle name first and first as middle. Her commands were ignored. So following orders, she was queen for 2 years. Friday takes her khakis off, castaway dog tag as she shakes her mane. I trace the number in her jumbled name and ask about the dotted line. If I die in battle, she says through the mirror, red lipstick sets off white wife beater, and my body is behind enemy lines. Someone, a valiant comrade, will snap the disc in half and bring it home to say, there lies Queen Sharon, royal bitch and exemplary soldier, killed in action, died long before. I'm afraid the second one is also not very uplifting. This is called The Knowledge. First, your parents will die, relief grief. Then your exes, the boy on the drum with the broken skin, the man you skinny dipped with, the fool, the one who couldn't ask. Your best friends, including she who shouted, we shall live forever, on the dance floor, in the harbor, butterfly wings. Some people in the shops you'll be most upset about, cancer, heart, dementia, your old doctor. This doesn't seem right, but curiously, none of your cousins. You and Darling will place your bets till the grim croupier rakes his chips, then yours, across the gambling green of your Vegas honeymoon and the Derbyshire cemetery. Then your kids will read poems and squabble over what's left.
Thank you for that. That was really nice. It's maybe not uplifting, but more than a handful of poets have said that all poetry is a romanticism of the end, right? Okay, Sydney McCoy.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted just to inform some people who may not know something that I thought was pretty neat. I live in Dallas, Texas, and we have our first poet laureate, Yakin Zihuatinia, and he will be our first poet laureate for 2 years. And I just thought that was really nice that we're doing something, yeah, in Dallas, Texas. Now, I'll read from the 2 poems that were published in the fall 2021 Poetry Quarterly. And so the first one is First Bird. Bright orange streak flashes across plush green grass, cardinal perches on low tree branch. Crested head held high, he gives a rakish nod to the neighborhood. A smile overtakes my face. First bird spied this morning, first grin of the day. I fly down the street, wind lifts my face, eyes on the lookout for fellow flying friends. Dreams. At 4 a.m, life's reckoning begins. Dreams of relationships vivid with meaning, at once separate and connected, bring understanding withheld for decades. Deep rest wakes past events, thoughts coalesce, usher clarity to unresolved mysteries. The whys answered or set aside, the what ifs at long last disappear. Complexity recedes. Love abides. Thank you.
Very nice. Good ending. Okay, Sean.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you, everybody. I'll read a tanka and then a high one, if that's okay. The tanka. Among daffodils and hyacinth clusters, makeshift crosses, handwritten in felt tip pen, the names of the murdered. Never thought I'd write a tanka about war, but there you go. This is a high one called Hands. Hands. Dream in a long night, my dead friends and I, dancing in treetops. In the dead of night, woken by the calls of my father, who has borrowed the voice of the wind god, yet I recognize him, he's reaching cries. He calls me by my forever name, my true name, the one I had before mother and father were born. Naked, I move out the window and through the hedge, feeling it brush me, soft as lanugo. Over dew-forming grass I walk, following his appeal, until I feel him and know he gestures for me to bow down low, crawl into a tangle of briars whose thorns do not cut, but somehow salve and ease me through a tunnel of dense growth before rough earth. I straighten up, my father's wind god voice always before me, the ground dropping downwards, increasing my speed till I am running faster, propelled by a gravity beyond the pull of earth, till I feel no more the pound of ground and nothing around me but darkness, air. Black winter moon, unseen waves crashing, the taste of sea spray. Flung out, falling, a sense of heaving water way below. Eyes stream in the salty air and tumbling forward, the coming into focus of hands reaching out to me, out of the ocean, the hands of everyone I ever met that died. Young Kevin's hands, Mikey's too, old man Grace and the fiddler Donahue, the hands of my grandparents, all the uncles and aunts already gone, cousins, school friends, buddies and lovers, the longed for, the lost. Watanabe-sama, lost to cancer, the girl who dropped from the Seto Bridge into the inland sea, and her stillborn child, never named. The hands of dead patients whom I washed in mortuaries, all of them and each of them, reaching up to cushion and comfort, so I may be free to face the fear, free from fear to answer the call my father makes on his and their behalf. Into the non-moon, warm on the horizon, our ship of ghosts. Thank you.
Strong as always. Very nice, Sean. Okay, I'm going to read and then we'll move to Lynette Esposito, Michael Flanagan, Mary Gunn, James Bethel. That'll be and then on and on. Ekphrastic poetry has been on my mind recently, and I've got a couple of questions about it, and that always sparks. Anytime anybody even asks me a single question, my mind just races all over the place and tries to pull up everything I ever heard about it. And some people think that when you do a poem about a picture, an ekphrastic poem, that you have to sort of be true to the history of what's going on in the image. But then I don't really agree with that. And when I was early on in my excitement about poetry, I wrote a few where I just saw a picture and then I made up a story about it. And it was just try to play with it, something fun, almost like a warm-up exercise. So this is the first picture. I took this picture in Mexico in a place called Huatulco, and it's just a big picture of a rock in the surf. The poem is Eyeing Gypsies at Huatulco Beach. When David kicked sand in the face of the sleeping gypsy, no words were spoken, just a look. The gypsy closed one eye and turned his face blue, holding his breath until his open eye bulged like a single white egg trapped in a too small carton. He staggered toward David, who backed away into the surf, and all at once the gypsy took one great breath, and David was gone. In his place, only a boulder remained, a rounded remembrance of the bully David. It's just a silly thing, you know? Uh, so in Mexico City, they call it El Jefe. There are these guys that are selling mangoes. I'm sorry for the, you know how the backgrounds are on this thing. And I took this picture, and he's holding this really ominous looking knife, and he's the friendliest guy. I bought his stuff. But I made up this story for the picture. The title of the poem is Tooth Fairies Have Taken Second Jobs. Enrique is a tooth fairy by night, but late daylights as the Mango Man. Like so many other fairies, he is now only collecting baby teeth. The great war against tooth decay, Crest, Colgate, Aim, and the vanity of a generation has filled him with rage. It used to be that he would collect molars, pitted treasures of abscess. He would rise from the abyss, rise through the floorboards, rise, rise, and then whammo, another molar to add to the great mountain he slumbers upon. Sometimes he would even reach in at night and snatch the loose teeth from the mouths of sleeping donors. His delicate hands are perfect for it. But now he spends his days with a knife, with a lust for the molars of his customers in his eyes, being the daytime mango man and disgruntled at night. It's just so silly, but it's fun. Okay, Lynette, save us from all of this.
There it goes. All right, I did a poem. One thing I admired so much about the Ukrainian people is they took their pets with them. And Robin from the Poet magazine called for poems about the Ukraine. And I don't write about war usually, but I do write about cats. So this is Melody of the Ukraine. I am carrying my cat carrier. It is heavy and I am tired. In the Ukraine, running for our life. The heavy feline is getting heavier. Air goes in and out of me like light itself. I should leave my melody and go. She is crying. I rise, step away from her, look through the dark around us. The earth beneath me, struggles to breathe. Brushing the dirt from my knees, I open a can of cat food from the pocket and lick the top to erase my hunger. I give the rest to her. We are on our way again. Freedom is just a few steps forward. We will go together. That's it. I did another poem. It was for a New Jersey review thing. So I thought I should write a poem about New Jersey. And I thought with all the traffic and stuff, so I wrote about Route 1. If you're from the Pennsylvania, Jersey area, you know about Route 1. It's everywhere. Route 1. The road lay like a gray bookmark along the forest edge, dividing the lines of trees. Leaves fall fluttering one at a time downward, crumpled fragments of a book almost written. Cars speed along, traveling north. Some leave stories along the road's curves. flowers and crosses, beginnings, endings, words chalked on the narrow shoulder, immune to traffic.
Thank you, Lynette. Michael.
Okay, I have two Tonka today. One of them, the first one will be in the Tonka Society book coming up, but our first neighbor, shy in cap and fedora, excuse me, shy in cape and fedora, never a word in passing, but playing Bach deep into the night, the man I become. So that's our first neighbor, shy in cape and fedora, never a word in passing, but playing Bach deep into the night, the man I become. And this one is I've just liked it ever since I wrote it. Beside the tree planted the day she arrived, shy Sister Gerald smiles for a snap to send home, showing her safe in America. Beside the tree planted the day she arrived, shy Sister Gerald smiles for a snap to send home, showing her safe in America.
Oh, that was really great. You know, that's a good example of so much imagery in so few words. And we can all picture some old photo, you know, and then somebody telling what that's about. And that's just great. Nice job on that. Okay, Mary Gunn.
Thanks, Glenn, and hello to everybody else. I have two haiku to read today. The first one, oh sorry, they're not haiku, they're senryu. The first one is Monday. She goes to work in odd shoes. Monday. She goes to work in odd shoes. And my second one, redecorating. Collection of frames awaiting new picks. Redecorating. Collection of frames awaiting new picks. And in that one, I spelled picks, P-I-C-S. Both
Very
of
nice.
those were published in Chrysanthemum, an internet journal.
That's great. And for people that don't know, senryu are short poems that have an ironic or a twist to them about human foibles. And so it just makes it, I just love that. I could just read an entire 1,000 pages of senryu because I really get into that. That's so fun.
Sometimes I think it's harder to read them over the phone because when they're, if you're reading them on the page, you can see how they're laid out. But when you're reading them on the phone, it's a bit more difficult. But somehow I get through it.
Oh,
Thanks, Ken.
absolutely. When you read it on the page, things jump out at you, and you're absolutely right about that. When people hit that odd shoes, when they see it on the page, the first read through, they might think they have mismatched shoes, and then some people might think, oh, she only went to work with one shoe because it's an odd number, and so forth. Each time you get the read is a little different on the page, and it's true of so much of our work, and so. But conversely, some things really come to life when you actually get to hear the person who wrote it read it, and that's just wonderful too. So, thank you so much.
You've given me a whole new image of somebody going to work with just one shoe. Think about that.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Glenn.
You're welcome, Mary. James Bethel.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, everybody. This first poem was prompted by a line in a poem by Kim Adonizio in one of her collections, Mortal Trash. And the line was, "It's normal to drive forward slowly in fog and rain, to keep the radio on for company and love the disembodied voice saying, 'Now for a little music.'" This poem is entitled Disembodied Voice. An internet radio station has asked me to host a live program about poetry, and I have some concerns. A live radio broadcast is not like a podcast. Yet, a live voice, even over the radio, is still a disembodied one, as is this poem, disembodied. And when printed, it's sent through yet another medium, even less virtual. When I read this over the radio, does it become a meta disembodiment? And what if I read Kim Denizio's poem about disembodied radio voices over the radio? What then? It's an interesting thing, this notion of disembodiment. I can go anywhere, even through the air, to touch the heart of someone I've never met with the words of a poet neither of us have. This one was prompted by Peter Dinklage's fabulous portrayal of Cyrano de Bergerac in his film Cyrano. It's called After Cyrano. As many poets have been and are, will no doubt continue to be born, there are really only two types. One is in love with words, always seeking the perfect object with which to surround with symbols and preserve for all time. At its consummate best, that object becomes eternal. At its most inept, the words only drown along with the object of devotion in an unwanted and an undesired flood. The other poet is the one in love with love, searching like a lonely beacon on a cold and rocky coast in need of a caretaker. And having found such a longing equal, opens a heart for an angelic muse who gladly pours words that erase loneliness forever, or failing, fall silent. The common element shared by these two is, of course, love, which, as anyone who has ever found themselves at the pinpoint of either of these pitiful lovers, is quite beyond any words of any kind at all. And they discover they are possessed by a transcendence that by its slightest touch brings a profound melancholy so infinite that the only honest response is sorrow. Sorrow at the ineptitude of human capacity to express that which has finally been realized by either of these two searchers, lost in a forest not of their making. Both of them, like all we drafted warriors, finally find heaven wheresoever we fall. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely fantastic. I just posted a note to the chat here, but in case anybody misses it, next month in June, it'll be event will be on the 25th at 1, and everyone is allowed to bring a friend if you would like. And also, for the first time, we never did this before, but and I'll send a note out about this, but we're going to use the color blue as a prompt for one of the two poems that you read. So if you care, and you don't have to, you can read whatever you want, and I will love it just as much, but it might be a little bit fun to try this one time and see how it goes. Okay, so there you are. James, did you have one more, or oh no, you had this. Okay, I'm sorry. Gloria, are you still here with us? Gloria, there you
I
are.
am. Hi, everybody. This poem is called Bella Vita. Inception. Conception wound of cells joined together. Harmonious, glorious skin glistens. Imperfection and correction. Ethereally real, genuine. This birth of life multiplies without division. Grows, thrives, shares. Love, bounty, life. The sum of all eternity. Family. And then this is super short. It's not a dream, and there are no second chances.
It's not a dream, and there are no second chances.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming today. I hope that we see you again next month. Bob Whalen.
Good morning. I'm glad you gave an announcement at the beginning about upsetting poems, because I had one written that I was going to read that was intended to upset. So I will skip that. And it's Memorial Day weekend. And so I'll read things about passing. One of them has a picture. When I read it, is it okay to screen share or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So why don't I do this then? Well, no, I won't. I haven't got it ready. All right. So we'll start with this one called Ikebana. A gathering of old monks, all knowing everything must pass, sitting calmly in meditation, their energy quietly fading. This vase of irises, accepting their cut, continuing to glow, modeling the joyful posture of impermanence. Dewdrops vanish on a morning breeze. So that's the first one, and let me do this. I don't know why it doesn't come up. All right, I'll read it without the picture. It's one I happened upon, and hopefully it can stand by itself. Death in a subway station. Let us live and laugh among our friends. Let us go die and look sour among strangers. You will find someone who will turn your head. Michel de Montaigne. Shrouded in a wrinkled coat, slumping on an unforgiving plastic seat with metal rigid arms, subways roaring past. Onlookers pause, a silent chorus. Someone's daughter leans in, staring at reality. Sitting nearby, someone's brother recoils away. One warm hand holds cold fingers, unable to grasp. Thank you.
Thank you. Good reading. Consistently great group. Okay, so we're gonna go to Emily Strauss, and then just so everybody's ready, Bob Moreland, Thomas Festa, Clarice Samuels, Joanne, Terry, and Doug. So let me just read that again so you know who you're coming up behind. Emily Strauss, Bob Moreland, Thomas Festa, Clarice Samuels, Joanne. How do I say that name again? Deudicibus. Deudicibus. Gosh, I would love to.
Beautiful.
I would love to have that. Terry Glass and Doug Van Hooser. Okay, so Emily.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I don't always come, but I saw the email and I said, yes, I've got time. I'll read two poems, brand new. First one is Kiko Comes to America. She came to this country a teenager, hardly spoke English, soon met an older man, handsome, brash, divorced, needy, who molded her views of Southern culture, reactionary politics, sedate wealth, French cooking, stepchildren. She never spoke without an accent, never learned to drive or cook, always had housekeepers, gardeners, chauffeurs. When her husband finally died, she was adrift alone, unmoored in the empty columned mansion. No hounds, just a driver and cook. She finally discovered fly fishing in Alaska, wore rubber hip waders in icy rivers, thrilled to new adventure, took awful pictures of snowy peaks, came home unwashed, fired the cook, bought a new gas grill and a stainless fish grilling basket. Sort of an attempt at humor a bit.
I liked it.
Okay, junk drawer. Always top left or top right, next to the door or the washer, the sink, away from the dining room. It could be the tool drawer or the cooking drawer, pliers versus egg timer, rubber bands, spare screws and picture hooks, tea strainer, old plastic bags carefully washed, special wrench to level the refrigerator, fancy bottle stoppers that never fit, rifle through, avoid the melon slicer or corkscrew, touch the cheesecloth, soft cotton twine for turkeys, crocheted casserole doily, smile sheepishly, not here, can't find it. I could have sworn, but no, it's absent now. Slip down behind, lost to time until the cabinet gets rebuilt or I move. And who misses that drain filter anyway? I forgot I even had one. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't have a junk drawer right now, but growing up, we did, and I know exactly where the broken pencil that never gets sharpened on the end was. And okay, Bob.
I'm Bob Moreland. I'm sort of the token Midwesterner here on Lake Michigan and the Shiwaukee Prairie. Normally, I'm not dressed like this. I usually wear a tie and look all dressy, but this is Memorial Day. As indicated by the hat and the politically incorrect shirt, and God Save Ukraine. My first poem is Normandy. It was published in a book called Postcards from Baghdad. And if you want to read that free, I'll put a link in the chat. The book, not the poem. Normandy. The flag now waves above the field. White stones set out in rows arrayed. Countless suns lie, whose fate now sealed died. Then our freedom be displayed. Waves crash among the parapets. Medal posthumous honor gets. Forget-me-nots among the green. My heart stopped here, GI 18. I always have a hard time with Memorial Day more than other holidays because of friends that were 24 and didn't see 25. This is not one of those, but this is about an uncle. This is entitled In the Breach. In loving memory of pharmacist mate first class Doc Robert Danlaw II, 1st Battalion, 1st Marine Raiders, Headquarters and Supply Company. Sometimes when life gets hard, I think of you, 21, Navy corpsman among all those Marines trying hard to eschew the fear lurking below the surface unsung. It took the sergeant's leg when the shell hit, laying out 6 more, most of them in shot. Bullets over your head, you grabbed your kit, battlefield amputation, bandaged, took stock. Each in turn, without thought you stayed. Guam's August heat did your job imbue. Valor is not the absence of fear. Afraid, you go because someone is counting on you. My uncle, whose name I share, you impart honor as I remember you in my heart. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and every once in a while you run across. I live in a little town called Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It's just a little tiny, well, not that tiny, but it's not big. And all over the place there are these little memorials, you know. You just run into them in the weirdest times. And I'm into photography. I like to go take photographs of nature, and sometimes I'll just be out on the side of a mountain somewhere, trudging along, and all of a sudden I'll stumble across this memorial to a soldier or something, you know, that used to be kept up by some organization and isn't anymore, and it's all overgrown. It makes you really sad. You ever hear of Stone Mountain, Georgia? You guys know where that is? When I was a kid, we used to go to Stone Mountain every year and climb it. It's a big rock, but it's a mountain. And you can walk up to the top of it. It's really steep. And you get to the top, or near, you know, 3/4 of the way up maybe or something, there are these etchings in the rock where these Confederate soldiers were pinned down and they knew that they were going to not make it, and they carved their names into the rock so that people would know they were there. And, you know, I overlooked them when I was 7, and overlooked them when I was 8, and overlooked them when I was 9. And at some point, the day came when I asked about that because it was cool. You know, somebody carved their name in the rock, and then I got the story of how that had came to be. And it's just like memorial that people walk by all the time. So this is a tender season for a lot of people, and it's good that we do remember everybody. You know, we do our best to honor those things. Okay, Thomas.
Hi, Glenn. I'm going to start with a poem that is due out any day now in Drifting Sands Haibun. And I'd like to begin just by giving a shout out to Sean O'Connor, whose Haibun I first heard in one of the Prolific Press readings, and subsequently I picked up his book Fragmentation, which I highly recommend to you all. I found it very inspiring and started writing Haibun myself after hearing Sean's inspiring work. So here's an example. This is something of mine called Ghost Forest. Given climate change, how can we call these wetlands protected? Just one more case where we kid ourselves by allowing relatively painless prevention to hide harder evidence of complicity. There's no telling if I'll ever again witness firsthand the poplars falling and raising shallow root mounds, growing up so fast only to tumble into the shrouds of mist in that liminal zone where wetland becomes ghost forest. We swear to many things, vows to have and to hold, pangs of nature, sins of will. Dead poplars raise wooden forks of inert lightning to moody thunderheads, as if in protest, as if to return the favor. I am leaving the family home for good. One last hike before departure, before it all goes under 20 years later. Milky waters wend their way around brittle reeds, brown mallows, sedge grass. How can they be waterlogged and dry at the same time? An earthy hint of something breaking down, but not quite rotting. Lose something, gain something. Stubs and stumps, skeletal remains of the forest, precise opposite of jacaranda in flower near my childhood home. Forest snags, osprey perched on deadwood branch, hunting its reflection. Thank you. I'll read one more. This is called Rupture and Forge. Your message arrived in Cordoba, and for a spell across an ocean, I felt your touch, a perfect stillness. Then aspen leaves in your gust, I stood on glass in my head, writing you back, peered through to what had been, they said, a Visigothic church underneath the mesquita, entranced for hours by the forest of columns and scorpions of holy script I couldn't read, gold mosaics, striped arches everywhere, the entryway to paradise multiplying in infinite regress, those pillars of onyx, jasper, marble, porphyry, spolia in the hypostyle mosque, the ruined past holding up the prayer hall for personal devotion, whatever faith, from deconstructed Roman architecture of need. The old injury never seems to heal, like that most intimate of wounds, lonely nights awake in the asylum, anniversary of the match I once convinced myself would make me whole, when your thought, river of pure light, came through to show where fracture meant to have its way with me. The door of forgiveness slammed shut behind me. In the court of oranges, I heard bells from a tower built to disguise a minaret. Those were not yet early days, the weight of setting out still so heavy. Unsealinged chant, I felt your thought in Cordoba, and the world lightninged to life again. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite nice. Patrice, welcome to the group. We will just want to read the order here. Clarice, then Joanne, Terry, Doug, and then Patrice. So Clarice Samuels, please.
Okay, I have a haiku and a poem. So the poem was actually quite recent, as of this morning. That's how recent it was.
Testing it out on us.
Yes, and it was about an old acquaintance from about 15 years ago. Something reminded me of him, but first I'll read the haiku. Wielding chopsticks, a fork is dangerous. We chew Chinese noodles. Wielding chopsticks, a fork is dangerous. We chew Chinese noodles. Just an existential moment there. Okay, now here's my poem. It was quite something to see you in action, sitting across from my interlocutor. Oops, sorry. Okay. Sitting across from my interlocutor over eggs and toast for a business brunch. I saw something dark inside you, deep inside you. I saw raw images of sweaty skin and tangled hair, raw images, raw passion, beyond the limits of what a wife could provide after so many years of holy matrimony. I saw longing, hot breath, deep orgasmic release, while you scrutinized me, wondering if I could lift you up to those heights. I could not. I was every kind of unavailable. You picked up the tab at the conference center restaurant, and I paused to watch you on the escalator, back to your meetings, your dinners, your endless talks. I never saw you again. There was nothing more to say, even though nothing was ever said. That's it.
Thank you. Very nice. Thanks for coming, Sean. Okay. Joanne.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks everyone for reading today. It's my first time here. It's been great to hear all of your work. I'm going to read a piece that was in Poetry Quarterly last summer edition. It's a bit more expansive and narrative than my usual, but I'll start with that and then read a shorter, more recent one. It's called Family Portrait, and I'm usually very against giving too much context before a poem, but just to clarify, it is a poem about adoption, about me as an adopted person, my biological mother. It's addressed to her, who's also adopted. So interestingly, this complicated long Latin last name that I've inherited is not my own lineage. The poem is, again, Family Portrait. The home that warmed you after that long trip down from Canadian border, where Catholic Charities hoarded babies for those without to pick like flowers. The small blue house where you peered into windows that creak and whistle in winter, unlocked cabinets your father built to store memories. The china closet in the dining room where your mother's Polish tchotchkes still stand at attention among her mother's dishes, and homage to order. He, a woodworker, she, a nurse, took you and the boy when you were just toddlers. Though you shared no blood, you became one another's keepers. In this photo, you are only a teenager, sitting prettily in a blue dress to match your smiling eyes, father beside. Your brother's dark hair, your blonde waves warmed by your mother's chestnut coif. But soon you'd be kicked out of the picture. Yet brother was the one they could not keep for long. He fled in his 20s, unexpectedly hemorrhaging under skull. No one anticipated aneurysm. Now, a woman in your 50s, you live alone, having survived the war of parentlessness twice. One more thing we have in common. But the burden of the house, leaks that feed foreclosure in an IV drip, stretch marks in cement steps etched with ice, is too much labor. When the snow comes to cover us and it's quiet, everything will still. Frozen gutters glittering, unanswered questions. What you mean to ask is not if the house still stands to the elements. For all that you've lost is greater than this one small blue house that cannot hold your father's last words, your mother's confession over homemade latkes, or her best advice. That you offer me to those without to be picked like a flower, the way she and your father picked you and your brother. What you need to ask but cannot is this: am I still here if I cannot be within those walls with the only ones I have known as my own? Thank you. And this one is newer. This one is called Notes for New Writers. And who knows, maybe I'll read it to my students next semester. Notes for New Writers. Let the only liars you trust be poets. Let what's earthly be afterlife, mud-caked boots uprooted in spring. Let words be your fire and absence fill you like blue flames until silence devours your margins. The silence of chaos tells nothing, as the silence of everything listens. Like the trees, bear witness. Hold these sounds with outstretched leaves. Can you speak in song? Will you make a picture of God, birthed from your heart throat, cut from light, carved by breath that blooms in blood? May your body be a poem, furrow and field, everything in between the lines, fresh waters, paths of fallen fruit, rotting sweetly, feeding what grows. Thank you.
I really like that. I'm so glad you came today. That was nice.
Thanks.
And yeah, read it to your students. Terry Glass. Is she still here? Nope. Oh, casualties of war. Doug.
Hi, Glenn. The first poem I'm going to read was chosen by another publication yesterday. The word soul appears in this poem twice. The first time S-O-L-E, the second time S-O-U-L. Today is a shoe. The lace loosens and must be tightened again and again. It's tempting to knot it. The sole worn against the daily routine erupts, letting a toe stick out. You wonder if you can walk around with your tongue's tip lolling between your lips. The headlines? Storms will embrace homes at 100 miles an hour, pummel the windows and mumble at the doors, rip the roof like a hallucinogen. Across the ocean, homes are bursting because the neighbors hide hate in a missile they cannot aim. You wonder why chipmunks dash hoe to hoe. Change shoes and go for a jog. Kiss the wind, smile at the shin splints, buy a $5 coffee. Stare at the pebbles on the path, grind them under your soul as you run back to the news. The second poem is one that I wrote very recently. It's entitled, Yeah, Kick Everything to the Curb. Start over. All nests are built from debris, broken twigs, grass clippings, leaves green and brown, mud for mortar, lichen for decor. It's a restart after jumping the gun, trying to break away, leave whatever error in the air, a fog, opaque vapor. It's a trillion tears that won't evaporate, won't be wiped into a glossy surface. How many times can you turn the key, be greeted by a gentle purr, think the other road is smooth, shoulders wide, hills a docile roll, descents simple sighs. The curb runs to a sewer that cannot swallow grievances too large, failures too sharp, regrets too swollen. You've broken your foot before doing this. Heavy stones, both real and imagined, block the opening to the cave where you try to hide. It's a dark refuge filled with stalactite mistakes, stalagmite excuses. A bundle of pupae hang under the leftover leaves, transform one life to another. This one winged, ready to flit, bob, weave, dance away and never look back.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's good to see you, Doug. Okay, all the way from beautiful Hawaii. By the way, my older brother and his wife are in Hawaii right now with COVID. They got it on the plane. So they went to one of the most beautiful places, and now they are stuck. So if you're watching, get better. All right, Patrice.
I'm sorry to hear that they got the COVID. It's terrible. I'm sorry I'm late. I just had gotten back to my emails before I came on to the site. Yeah, I'm gonna read a poem I wrote for the 4th anniversary of my mom's passing, and it's simply called "Life on the 4th Anniversary of Mom's Passing," and the style is after a poem by Chinese poet Li Po called "The River Merchant's Wife." Letter from River Merchant's Wife. Not a test of endurance, an obstacle course with so many hurdles, as you once wrote in a letter to me, nor a primitive camping excursion where we long for home's comforts after a week in tents. I see you happy anywhere, as you used to try to be. You never seemed to be trying. I always believed that you weren't. At age 18, I left my mother you. But all those years, I missed you. Not these 4, but the decades before. I had not wished to go, much less so far away. No wonder in the current twilight I need so much your white lace curtains, a fireplace, homemade soup on the stove, the smell of bread baking in the oven, the sound of a sewing machine, and there's so much lovely music. Oh, at the last, if ever we are to meet again, send me another letter, a song from the throat of a northern cardinal, read in the winter woods where I live these days. And I will come to meet you, never remembering distances, all the way to wherever you are now. And the second one is kind of a fun thing that I wrote a while ago, and I don't think I read it here before. The assignment was to write a ballad, and I was given the form, and so I wrote this. This is called Old Casey on the Net. What evils can befall us now the internet has solved. Our shopping days are easier, our traveling less involved. Our banking is quite similar, except when there's a glitch, the system down or power out might cause a little hitch. One night old Casey in a bind logged in with great aplomb. He dashed through all his bank accounts, but there was something wrong. His balances were far too small, he muttered and he groaned. Why do they think I made with them $1 million loan? It was too late to call the bank. He had to wait till dawn. No doubt the rest of humankind had troubles of their own. Oh, someplace there must be great joy in someone else's house. But there's no joy in one homestead. Old Casey must log out. Old Casey rose before the sun, and he did call the bank. He talked with every officer, both low and high in rank. They found someone with Casey's name, and this may sound absurd. Old Casey had mistakenly keyed in that man's password. There came a smile upon his face as he logged in again. He used his own dear password. His life's perspective changed. For all you people near and far who use the internet, until the last day of the world, this tale do not forget. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really, really great. Anybody get that, like Ernest Lawrence Taylor, Casey at the bat thing in the background of your mind as she was reading that? It's just fantastic. Okay. Thank you all so much, and really appreciate you coming out and putting up with the late email and so forth. I will post this to Facebook, and as I said again, only because there's a couple people came in a little bit later. Next month, on the 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you're encouraged to bring a friend, though you don't have to. If you do bring a friend, bring a great poet liar of a friend. Okay, and the color blue as an inspiration. So one of your poems with the color blue, again, not necessary, but just something different that we haven't tried before, a prompt. So, okay, thank you all so much. Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you,
Thank
Glenn.
you. You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks, Glenn.
Bye, Patrice.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lynette. Take care, Doug. Good to see you again.
My
Thank-
best to your relatives here who are ill.
I
I'm
will.
so sorry. So sorry about that.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Bye-bye.